So just touching on the history, Buckingham established back in 1820. Highway 104 was constructed in the mid-1960s, and at that time I don't think it was as amicable a process when the department did some of its work in those days. With the construction of the highway, the community was effectively severed, split in half. It's about equally split, unfortunately. And there's many decades going by without a resolution to the issue. We've dug back in correspondence and found bits of correspondence with dialogues between Buckingham chiefs and the politicians and bureaucrats of the day as the decades went by, and could never get to a resolution on the issues. But back in 2006, there was probably a change of people and a different perspective on things and a glimmer of hope. And we did manage to strike a working committee. And through that process, we were able to get to a provincial commitment to the project and recognition that things weren't left the best they should have been. So let's try to make some changes and make some amends to the way things were left back in the 1960s. Following this process, we got to the point of getting government to actually commit dollars and a solid commitment to seeing the project happen. But we had a lot of steps and a lot of hurdles to go from that point. So this effectively would show the project, and we do have the model that we were able to get approval to get built. It's a product that's printed like you'd print a document home on paper, but in the third dimension as well. So we were pretty excited to get approval to develop the plan in a form that everybody could come up and see, and we don't want everybody touching it, but getting close enough that you can and get different perspectives and views. So the project effectively entails a new interchange on Highway 104 with a structure location. Can everybody see the little arrow on the screen? So a new structure over Highway 104 at this location, just south of the main community. Oh, don't need to see that. The intersections would be modern roundabouts. This allowed us to minimize the size of the bridge that we were having to build and make sure we get the smoothest traffic flow possible at the interchange. Of course, the highway ramps, the eastbound off-ramp and on-ramp, the westbound off-ramp and on-ramp. And you can see a dashed line through here as well, and the label says future twinning. And you can see it really good with the blow-up of the 3D model with the bridge. If anybody hasn't seen it, please take some time and look at it after we're done. And it shows you basically where the existing highway is now and how that bridge will go over. But it also shows where the future twinning will happen for Highway 104. And there's been some planning work done on that. Government's gone across the province with the concept of twinning through tolling. That's a decision that's not made yet, but our department went out to the communities just to ask the question and see what people thought of it. Regardless, there is accommodation for that future twinning with the bridge, so when someday the government decides we'll twin Highway 104, then that bridge won't have to get rebuilt or blown up or anything. It will accommodate that future twinning underneath the structure. We have the connector road from the highway down to Trunk 4, which intersects right where Afton Road currently intersects Trunk 4, just to the east of the core community. And we also have a connection to Afton Road on the south side. So currently, if you want to get to the south of the highway, you'd have to go down Trunk 4, come back Gorman Road, come up Afton Road. So that trip will no longer be needed. You'll have direct access to the lands on the south side, including the other side of the Afton River, which passes through along here. We also have a stub to the southwest from the roundabout, so that will also provide access to remaining fee simple lands and reserve lands that Buckingham currently holds. So we've estimated the project at about 15.3 million, and that's been the number that's been moving forward, not only from a provincial commitment to build the project, but as government seeks out federal funding, and that it's a process with the federal government that starts with a business case, and in order to tap in federal funds, and that business case has already been put into the federal government and seeking, I believe it's a little over 6 million of federal money to offset the 15. So about 9 would be provincial and 6 would be federal. So for anybody driving along Highway 104 past Buckingham, you wouldn't quite have a feeling for where the community is. And here's the location looking along the 104 where the interchange is actually going to sit. So once that interchange would be in place, it's going to be an obvious location and an obvious destination for anybody driving on the highway to say, here's the community, come stop in or stay a while. So on the other end, I mentioned down at Trunk 4 at the Afton Road intersection, there's some problems with the curves just to the, if you come down Afton Road and you want to pull out, when you look to the east, it's kind of hard to see what's coming around the corner at you. There's not enough, we call it sight distance, out to see the vehicles that are flying along, and you don't want them to hit you, and we don't want them to hit you either. So there's some changes that we have to do to Trunk 4 as well to improve the curves and flatten things out so you can see those vehicles a lot better, and it will make it a lot safer to get out onto Trunk 4. As I mentioned, the 3D model, at the time it was a much newer technology. It's getting a little older hat now. It's amazing what 3D printing is doing, but what it did for us was allowed us to create this model, and we were pleased to have it built and bring it to the community so community members could take some time and look over it, and to look at even pictures on paper. It's still kind of hard to judge what's going on because you don't get that three-dimensional feel with a picture. But the model does give us that benefit that you can see what's going on in 3 dimensions. So as far as benefits of the project, like I mentioned, it resolves that long-standing issue of the loss of access to land. And some people think, well, land is just land, but particularly for Aboriginal communities, land is the community. It's not just where the buildings and the roads are. It's all of the land. It's all the community. We see the project as being able to give community economic development opportunities. We saw the successes of two other bands in the Maritimes. There are others that we hear of and see of throughout Nova Scotia that are taking great economic development steps, and an interchange project here would be a perfect golden opportunity for Buckingham to take advantage of those benefits as well. The thought is also to deal with long-term residential needs as the lands to the north of Highway 104 get built out. As a community that's growing quite strongly, you need places for people to live. So if you end up running out of space on the north side of Highway 104, then there would be those opportunities to the south as well to take advantage of not only commercial opportunities, but residential. But of course, that's up to Chief and Council and you as a community to decide what you want to do. The interchange is also going to form an overall picture of what a twinned Highway 104 is going to look like. So at some point, we would certainly hope to see Highway 104 twinned from the rest of the way from Sutherland's River up to Antigonish, and then from the other side of Antigonish all the way to the Cancel Causeway. This interchange forms a component of that network and as you've seen in your travels, anytime you're on a twinned highway, there are no at-grade intersections. If you get on or off a highway, it's using a grade separated interchange. So that's where Buckingham interchange will form a component of that overall long-term vision. But of course, Chief and Council have said it many times, and it's critical that that the community is on board, and they vote to say yes when it comes time for the referendum. Without the yes vote, without that passing grade, the project most likely won't advance. So it is in the hands of you and all your community members. So just a brief update on the design. We contracted a design consultant out of Halifax called Hatch. They put together a team of engineers and planners and architects and surveyors and designers to help us put together this package, which involves a bridge for the interchange, as you see on the model here. There's the current crossing of the Afton River on the existing highway. That has to be expanded. Both roads to the north and the south also cross the Afton River, so we had additional bridges to be part of the project that needed to be designed. The roadways themselves, the roundabouts, archaeological work, environmental work. There's a lot of pieces that go into this. So we've been at this for a few years with the consultant, and we're almost there. And Jason came on board with me a few years ago to lend a hand with moving this along, because it's quite a monumental task. So certainly glad to have Jason helping us out. The roads are, like I say 98% complete. The roundabouts are 98 to 100% complete. So we're within a few weeks of seeing what we hope would be a final design come from the consultant. And of course, it's all the environmental, so it's impacts on wetlands, permits for crossing the Afton River to make sure we do it in a way that's as environmentally sensitive as possible. The critical part of this is land, and you hear Madawaska talk about the land needs, you hear about Glooscap, and Glooscap's on a much quicker time frame, only within a few years, but the critical part there is that all of their development is on fee simple, so it's absent of the Indian Act. With us, we're dealing with banned land and we're dealing with fee simple land. So the banned land brings in the Indian Act and a huge amount of complication that we've had to work through over the past number of years. So I mentioned that, and there's also there's a few homes on the reserve as well that are impacted by this, and your community leadership has been very proactive with trying to make some accommodations to hasten that time frame when we get to a point of getting a successful vote and moving forward with some construction. And there is, just that I'm sure everybody knows anyway, but I'll echo it here, that there's financial compensation based on that. So any homes that are impacted, any banned land that's administered through the feds, there's compensation for that. There's compensation for the fee simple land that is also required for the project. So all of that's wrapped up in an appraisal that's been done independent of government to determine what is an appropriate value for all those pieces. And that was a major step to complete, and we have achieved that last fall. So we've been working closely, we as a government are working closely with Chief and Council and band staff, impacted families, community sessions such as this to explain all the challenges and hurdles and steps that we need to go through. Try to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on in as high a level as fashion as possible, because it's tremendously complicated. I've been working with government for 20 years, and it's been the most complicated thing that I've worked on. Certainly a very exciting project, but many levels of complication. So this image shows the same project, and so there were 3 different types of land that we've had to deal with. One of them in green, as you see here and here, would be non-banned fee simple. So it would be Joe Blow up the street that lives in a house on a subdivision lot or something like that. So it's our typical process we have in the department to acquire lands. There were 2 homes that we had purchased on Afton Road a few years ago. What's shown in purple would be fee simple lands that are owned by the band. So the band had opportunities to buy some land for expanding the community, economic development, things like that. For us, the project has to sit on a portion of that. So that's shown in purple. So there's a land acquisition process for that we've been working through. The more complicated side would be what's shown in orange. So everything in orange goes through Buck-and-Keck land that is reserve. So it's administered by the federal government. Again, much more complicated process. The Indian Act prescribes it. It's unfortunate Judy can't be here today because she was going to step through that surrender process. So it's very prescribed in that the community has to be a double majority in favor of surrendering that land, and in this case, surrendering it so that this project can happen. Because without the surrender, the project can't exist. That's a very critical part. You can see that the interchange is here, but you may wonder why is all this orange going all the way off the page? And because the process is so complicated with the Indian Act, we wanted to do it once. So we want to do it for the interchange project, for the connector roads, but also for that future twinning. So we take care of it all through this long process now. Then at some point in the future, when the government decides to twin, we have the land already surrendered to the province and can continue on much more efficiently. So where are we now? We're getting really, really close, and we've been getting close for a long time, but we're really, really close now. So our design is in the final stretch. I like to say we're in the bottom of the ninth on that. I would say within 2 months that design would be complete. At the same time this is going on with the consultant doing the design, we're working the tripartite agreement through the process. So the tripartite agreement is an agreement. It's the umbrella document that'll be part of the package that will come from INAC that has all the information the community members need to know about the project, to know about the process, to know about voting and supporting if that is the choice, and certainly hope it is the choice. But within that tripartite agreement, it's an agreement between the feds, the province, and the band to move this forward. There's lots of red tape at the federal level, and unfortunately there's lots at the provincial level. And for us, we needed that tripartite agreement supported by Executive Council. So it's the provincial cabinet that has to look at that and say, yes, we're giving Minister Jeff McClellan the blessing to sign off on this agreement. So it's gone through a bunch of steps along the way, and it's on its way to Executive Council now. Once they say yes, I can pick up the phone and call Judy and call Chief and say we're good to go, and then Judy would start that clock, that 50 to 60 day clock to the point of the referendum day for the vote. So while that's going on, back to this other stream with the design, we have some internal things to do with the design that comes from Hatch to prepare it for public tender. So we have to put it out for contractors to bid on it to do the work. Typically, we piecemeal our projects into components. So it might have been structural work with one contract. It might have been some earthwork on one side and earthwork on another side, and paving it all at the end. To make it as quick as possible, we're going to bundle it all into one contract. So it'll go out as a $15 million project, and we'll have one contractor on there. They won't be stumbling over each other, won't be adding that level of complication, and they can manage efficiencies within that if you only have one contractor on site to do the whole project. So at this point, we believe we'd be ready for, assuming that the vote's happened, it's positive, everything's moving forward, that we should actually be in a position to start earthwork out here and bridge work in August. So we would see construction started this year, and our goal is to have it finished by the end of 2018. So within 18 to 20 months from now, that's our current focus, is to get the project built and open to traffic before Christmas of 2018. I know I'm sounding preachy. Everybody has to say yes. When Judy's out and Rose is out and everybody's out for voting day, everybody's got to say yes. Get your friends, get your neighbors, get your family, drag them out, put them in a wheelbarrow, drive them down, whatever you need. Everybody's got to say yes. Like we've heard from two other bands today of the benefits and the successes and the enjoyment that these projects can bring a community. It's in your hands.